Nobody was ready for the photo. Not because it was graphic. Not because it was dramatic. But because of what it didn't explain. A tiny chest rising too fast. A breathing tube just barely out of frame. A caption that said almost nothing, and yet said everything. And suddenly the happiest couple in 90-Day Fiancé history wasn't posting jokes anymore. They were asking for prayers. And that's when fans started asking the one question nobody wanted to say out loud. What is really happening to David and Annie's daughter, and why does this feel like something we're not being told? I know what you're thinking. David and Annie are the success story. The couple that beat the odds. The ones who finally got their fairy tale after years of chaos, poverty, humiliation, and judgment. So how did we get here? Because this didn't start with a hospital photo. It started years ago, quietly, off camera, in a way TLC never fully showed. And once you see the full picture, it's impossible to unsee it. If you've watched this couple from the beginning, you remember how messy it was. David, broke, couch surfing, drinking too much, burning bridges. Annie, young, far from home, smiling through discomfort most people would have walked away from. Fans hated him at first. Some still do. They said he was using her. That she was trapped. That the power imbalance was obvious and uncomfortable. And when Annie moved to America, it didn't magically get better. There were fights about money. About respect. About survival. But over time, something shifted. They laughed more. They built a brand. They cooked together. They turned pain into content. And eventually, they became one of the most loved couples in the entire franchise. That's why this hurts so much. Because people trusted them. So when David and Annie finally announced they were expecting a child, the internet exploded in joy. This was the ending fans had been rooting for. After infertility struggles, after age concerns, after endless speculation, this baby wasn't just a child. She was a symbol, a second chance, a healing moment, proof that love really did win. But here's the part nobody was ready for. From the very beginning, things were complicated. Annie's pregnancy wasn't easy. There were doctor visits they didn't fully explain. Moments they brushed past with smiles and jokes. Fans noticed. They always do. Comment sections started filling with questions. Why does she look exhausted? Why are they so vague? Is everything okay with the baby? At first, people told themselves not to overthink it. They wanted to believe the happy version. And then the baby was born. For a moment, everything felt okay again. Photos, tiny clothes, happy tears. Until suddenly, there was silence. No playful updates. No casual stories. No food videos. Just quiet. And then came the post. The one that made people stop scrolling. David's words were careful. Almost too careful. Our daughter is having trouble breathing. Please pray. That was it. No diagnosis. No timeline. No reassurance. Just fear. And the internet lost its mind. TikTok filled with reaction videos overnight. Some people crying. Some whispering. Some visibly angry. On X, people were asking why this wasn't being talked about more. Why TLC wasn't saying anything. Why David and Annie suddenly felt guarded. Reddit threads blew up with theories. Medical speculation. Arguments over privacy. One fan wrote, "I don't care if they don't owe us details." That post felt like a cry for help. Another said, "Something about this feels bigger than they're admitting." And then there were the darker comments. The ones nobody wants to read but everyone secretly does. Did stress cause this? Was the pregnancy too risky? Why did they wait so long? People started choosing sides. Some said fans were being invasive. Others said silence invites questions. And in the middle of it all, was a baby struggling to breathe. This is where everything quietly fell apart. Because while prayers flooded in, something else happened too. Old clips resurfaced. Moments from earlier seasons. Scenes where Annie talked about her health. About pressure. About feeling overwhelmed. Things that didn't seem important back then suddenly felt relevant. And that's when the story shifted from concern to suspicion. Because this wasn't just about a medical emergency anymore. It was about everything that led up to it. David is older. That's not a secret. He's been open about his age, his health scares, his past mistakes. Fans had already questioned whether having a child this late in life was fair. Whether the stress alone was too much. And Annie had given up everything. Her country, her family, her language, her independence. She carried the emotional weight of their relationship for years. So when this crisis hit, people didn't just see a sick child. They saw a timeline of pressure. Immigration stress, financial instability in the early years, public scrutiny that never stopped. And then there was the part TLC never explained. The off-camera doctor visits. According to people close to the couple, Annie had been monitored closely during pregnancy. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly, because not everything is meant for TV. But here's where the story takes a turn. A source claimed this breathing issue wasn't sudden. That there were warning signs. Subtle ones. Things doctors were watching closely. And if that's true, then the prayers weren't just about hope. They were about fear that had been building for months. I know what you're thinking, why wouldn't they tell us? Because David and Annie built their brand on joy, on laughter, on resilience. And fear doesn't sell. Fear breaks the illusion. This is where fans started to split emotionally. Some said, they're protecting their child. Leave them alone. Others said, they built their life publicly. You can't just disappear now. And then came the moment that changed everything. Annie posted a story, just a few seconds long. No words, no music, just her holding her baby, counting breaths. 1, 2, 3. That clip destroyed people. Comment sections filled with strangers saying they were praying at work, in cars, in hospital rooms of their own. Parents said they felt sick watching it. And then, it vanished. Deleted. That's when theories went wild. Was it removed by doctors? By lawyers? By TLC? Or did Annie realize she showed too much? Because that video said more than any caption ever could. It showed exhaustion, fear, and something else. Guilt. The kind of guilt parents feel even when it's not their fault. This is the layer nobody wants to talk about. The emotional blame. Mothers blaming their bodies. Fathers blaming their choices. And in David's case, fans started revisiting his past. The drinking. The instability. The years Annie waited while he got his life together. People asked uncomfortable questions. Did stress play a role? Did financial pressure delay care? Did fame change priorities? None of these questions have confirmed answers. But they're being asked. Because when a baby struggles to breathe, nothing feels off limits anymore. And then came the mid-story twist nobody expected. A doctor close to the situation reportedly said the issue may be temporary. That with proper treatment, the baby could recover fully. That should have been comforting. Instead, it raised more questions. If it's temporary, why the panic? Why the urgency? Why the silence? This is where everything you thought you knew gets shaky. Because sometimes, temporary, still means terrifying. Sometimes it means, we don't know yet. And sometimes, it means something worse is being ruled out. Fans started noticing David looked different. Older, more tired, less joking. Annie stopped posting altogether. No cooking videos, no smiles, just absence. And absence speaks, especially when you've built a life on being seen. But here's the part nobody was ready for. The biggest reveal isn't medical. It's emotional. According to people close to the family, Annie has been struggling privately. Not just with fear, but with resentment. Not toward the baby, toward the situation, toward the pressure of being strong publicly while falling apart privately. Toward the feeling that her body was expected to be perfect, and when it wasn't, she felt like she failed. That kind of pain doesn't show up on TV. And TLC doesn't know what to do with it. Because this story doesn't fit a season arc. It doesn't have a neat ending. It has prayers, waiting rooms, quiet tears at 3 a.m., and a couple who once felt untouchable, now feels painfully human. So where does that leave us? A baby fighting for every breath. Parents holding on to hope. Fans arguing between compassion and curiosity. And a reality TV machine that thrives on drama, but doesn't know how to handle real fear. David and Annie haven't said much since. And maybe they won't. Maybe this is the line where public life stops. Or maybe, this is just the beginning of a story we're only seeing pieces of. Because the truth is, sometimes the strongest couples are the ones breaking quietly. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Do David and Annie deserve complete privacy right now, or did inviting the world into their love story mean inviting the world into their pain too? Tell me what you think.